For thousands of years, a mysterious list of forbidden foods in ancient scripture has made people wonder. What if the food laws in the Bible weren't just about what to eat, but about how to connect with the divine in a way we've largely forgotten? You've probably heard that the Bible calls some foods clean and others unclean. A lot of people today just assume this was about health and hygiene in a world without refrigerators. But if that were the whole story, it wouldn't explain the stranger details. Why is a locust okay to eat, but a lobster isn't? Why is a cow considered clean, but a pig is not? The truth seems to be far deeper and more symbolic than simple food safety. These weren't just dietary suggestions, they were seen as spiritual guides. They were a key to understanding the fabric of creation, a way to guard the soul, and a daily act of devotion. In this video, we're going to explore the ancient spiritual interpretations behind these biblical food laws and reveal the profound connection between what's on our plate and the state of our soul. The obvious explanation. When we look at the list of forbidden foods in books like Leviticus and Deuteronomy, the first explanation that comes to mind is usually a practical one. And that's not totally off base. For instance, the Bible forbids eating pork. A common modern theory is that since undercooked pork could carry parasites like trichinella, this rule was a form of ancient public health. It's a logical idea. Similarly, the ban on shellfish might make some sense, as some types are bottom feeders and can accumulate toxins under certain conditions, posing a potential health risk. These hygienic theories are logical, and they might highlight some practical wisdom within the laws. But they start to fall apart when you look closer. They don't explain why many animals that are perfectly safe to eat were also forbidden, or why the reason given in the text itself has nothing to do with health. The Bible's own explanation points not to medicine, but to a much bigger concept: holiness. The text says, "Be holy, because I am holy." This tells us the core reasons aren't about biology, but theology. To find them, we have to look past the surface and into the spiritual heart of the laws. Unveiling 4 spiritual interpretations. If it wasn't just about food safety, what was it about? The real purpose seems to be about shaping the soul of a nation and weaving spiritual awareness into everyday life. Let's explore 4 of the most compelling interpretations. Interpretation number 1. The symbolism of divine order. This first idea, made famous by the anthropologist Mary Douglas, is all about order versus chaos. The book of Genesis describes God creating the world by separating and ordering things. He separates light from darkness, and water from land, and creates animals, according to their kinds. This theme of divine order is a master key for many scholars who study these laws. The rules for what make an animal clean seem to be based on perfect, ideal archetypes. For a land animal to be clean, it had to have a completely divided hoof and chew the cud. For a sea creature, it had to have both fins and scales. Any animal that didn't fit perfectly into these neat categories was considered unclean. Take the pig. It has a cloven hoof, so it meets one rule. But it doesn't chew the cud. It breaks the pattern. Or think about an eel, which lives in the water but has no scales. They are anomalies. In this view, creatures that blur the lines between categories were seen as symbolic of chaos, a disruption of God's perfect, ordered creation. To eat them was, in a symbolic way, to take disorder into yourself. Following the laws, then, became a daily act of affirming God's divine order and rejecting chaos. Every meal was a reminder that they served a God who brought structure out of chaos. Interpretation number 2. The rejection of foreign influence. The second interpretation is that these laws were a powerful act of cultural distinction. The ancient Israelites were a small nation surrounded by powerful empires like Egypt and Canaan. A major theory is that the food laws created a clear, tangible boundary between the Israelites and their neighbors. Now, some have argued that many unclean animals were central to the worship of these other cultures. The historical evidence for this is debated. While pigs, for example, were used in some rituals in the ancient world, it's an overstatement to say they were a universal part of pagan worship across all surrounding cultures. But you don't need a perfect one-to-one match for the laws to have a separating effect. An Israelite couldn't just wander into a foreign festival and join in, because the food itself was likely forbidden. These laws were a form of cultural and spiritual insulation. They made it almost impossible to just blend in. Every day, at every meal, the people were reminded that they were different. They were set apart for a unique God. So, avoiding these foods wasn't just about diet, it was a constant, active rejection of assimilation and a declaration of loyalty. Interpretation number 3. The spiritual nature of food. This third way of looking at the laws is perhaps the most mystical, seeing them through an allegorical lens. It's based on the idea that you are what you eat, not just physically, but spiritually. While the biblical text itself doesn't speak of energetic residue, this interpretation suggests that animals embody certain principles. Many of the forbidden creatures are predators or scavengers. The law forbids eating many birds of prey, for example. Scavengers feed on dead things, which are biblically associated with death and decay. The spiritual logic here is that these creatures carry a symbolic weight. To consume a scavenger is to symbolically partake in death and impurity. To consume a predator is to take in the essence of violence. In contrast, the clean animals are generally passive herbivores, like sheep and cattle, creatures that symbolize peace and gentleness. The purpose, in this view, was to cultivate a spirit of life, not death. By avoiding animals associated with bloodshed and decay, the Israelites were symbolically aligning themselves with the God of life. This interpretation suggests that what we consume can dull our spiritual senses, and the laws were designed to keep those spiritual channels clear. Interpretation number 4. A discipline of mindfulness and holiness. The fourth and final interpretation is that the laws were a form of spiritual training, a daily practice in mindfulness and obedience. In a world where faith could easily become just an abstract idea, the food laws made it intensely practical. Imagine it. Every trip to the market, every meal preparation, every family dinner involved a conscious choice. Is this food clean? Does this honor God? This constant process of choosing trained the Israelites in the art of holy living. It taught them that God wasn't just interested in their prayers at the temple, He cared about the mundane details of their lives. Holiness wasn't a feeling for special occasions, it was a choice to be made over and over again from morning until night. By obeying these commands, even when the reasons weren't fully understood, they were cultivating a heart of trust. It transformed the simple act of eating into an act of worship. It was a constant, physical reminder that every part of life could be consecrated to God, set apart as holy. If you're enjoying this journey into ancient wisdom, hit that subscribe button. We explore texts like this every week to find truths that still resonate today. And let me know in the comments, which of these 4 interpretations clicks with you the most? The New Covenant: a shift in focus. For centuries, these laws helped define the identity of God's people. But with the coming of Jesus, the conversation takes a dramatic turn. In the New Testament, specifically in the Gospel of Mark, Jesus makes a revolutionary statement. He says, nothing outside a person can defile them by going into them. Rather, it is what comes out of a person that defiles them. Mark's Gospel then adds a stunning note. In saying this, Jesus declared all foods clean. This was a seismic shift. The focus moves from external, ritual purity, what you eat, to internal, moral purity, the state of your heart. Jesus taught that true defilement, the stuff that really makes us unclean, comes from things like greed, hate, and pride that live in our souls. This idea gets reinforced later in the book of Acts when the Apostle Peter has a vision. He sees a sheet lowered from heaven filled with all kinds of unclean animals, and a voice tells him to get up, kill and eat. When Peter, a devout Jew, protests, the voice replies, "Do not call anything impure that God has made clean." This vision was a powerful symbol that the old barriers were coming down. The message of faith was not just for one nation with one set of rules, but for all of humanity. The focus was no longer on the purity of the plate, but on the purity of the heart. The timeless principle. So where does that leave us? We've traveled from the simple theory of hygiene to the deep spiritual interpretations of the biblical food laws, affirming divine order, separating from paganism, pursuing spiritual purity, and practicing daily discipline. We've also seen how the New Testament shifts the focus from the external rule to the internal condition of the heart. This journey from outer rules to inner state gives us a powerful guide on how to eat for eternity. It's not about a physical diet for a longer life, but a spiritual diet for eternal life. To eat for eternity means to nourish your soul with what lasts forever: truth, love, mercy, and a relationship with the divine. It's about consuming the bread of life, which is spiritual sustenance, rather than just physical bread. By feeding on goodness and righteousness, you're investing in a part of you that transcends the physical world. Whether you see these laws as a symbolic practice that has been fulfilled or follow them literally today, the underlying principle is more relevant than ever: what we consume matters. And this applies so much more than just food. It applies to the media we consume, the conversations we have, the ideas we entertain, and the influences we allow into our lives. Every choice either nourishes or contaminates our soul. The ancient food laws point to a profound and timeless truth: every single part of our lives can be an act of worship, an opportunity to choose what is good and holy. The ultimate question these laws leave for us today is not just what's for dinner, but what am I feeding my soul? If this video gave you some food for thought, please hit the like button and share it with someone who might find it interesting. And for our closing question, do you believe these laws were primarily about holiness, health, or heart? Drop your one-word answer in the comments below. Thanks for watching.